Historically, there's always been differences in each region, right? So I'll have a profile that I'll kind of put in one bucket. So it'll be North America and Western Europe. I'll put into an advanced, mature roaming market. I would add into that bucket, but in fact actually say they're even ahead. Northern Asia, Japan, Korea has had a vastly sophisticated and mature market for roaming. So what we're talking about when I say mature, we're talking about a lot of outbound traffic, a lot of exchange of traffic, and roaming is paid for as a postpaid subscriber, something I'm used to. So in those markets, data is very high, outbound data usage. Voice is, we're getting neck and neck here between what revenue is being driven from voice outbound versus revenue from data. Messaging is still hot. I mean, it's declining, but it's still hot. So text messaging is certainly present. So in those markets, we see varying levels of aggressiveness on retail pricing. And sometimes we see, like in Southeast Asia, for example, for a long time, they've had very competitive retail marketing for roaming. And it'll be very regional based because most roaming is regional. You're very rarely traveling the majority of your subscribers much farther than, sort of the region that they're within. So competitive pricing for retail roaming in Southeast Asia has always been something that's been very interesting to see in there, and a lot of that's what we see bleeding into what's happening in North America, what's happening in Europe, and some of the more aggressive and assertive pricing that's out there associated with, how do I unlock that behavior and that usage? Is it so many megabytes, so many minutes, and so many text messages, or do I bundle it all in and give some sort of unlimited number? We'll see how long that lasts. The per unit pricing is going to be the thing that I think ultimately is challenged. But if I look at Latin America, for example, or Middle East and Africa, voice is still the highest usage type of service. We're talking about a hugely predominant prepaid market. Those markets are going to always be challenged when it comes to roaming and driving an outbound roaming profile. And roaming is all about, you're sending traffic to someone and someone's going to be sending traffic to you, which is at the heart of this wholesale side of roaming, which no matter what happens on the retail side, wholesale is still going to be present and still needs to be managed. And so the balance of traffic that can occur between partners is always a function of how much can I send to you, how much can you send to me. And that's one of the things about taking advantage of the time now to implement new pricing that really is about driving more usage, because if I can actually drive more usage on a visited network, I've then changed the profile of my value as a roaming partner. I don't overnight acquire 25,000 new subscribers that outbound roam. It just doesn't happen. My profile year over year as a roaming partner is pretty similar. So how do I make sure that I'm in a position to have a different leverage position with my outbound roaming partner and make it so that they continuously send their traffic to me? Well, I can implement a retail pricing plan that's going to drive roaming revenue in that market. And all of a sudden, a year later, you're looking at a different profile. I've had an increase in data usage, an increase in voice usage, an increase in text messaging because I've intentionally incented the subscriber to do so. Changes the balance, changes the entire landscape of how you negotiate that and the tight integration between retail that wholesale's got to have.